name is 3D Natee.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up in Uptown New Orleans, the third one, Delachey Street, Parkway.
And your grandma lived there?
My grandmother still lives there now, but I grew up in that house, and then after Katrina, we fixed the house, and she actually moved in it. It's a family-owned house, so a lot of people live there.
What other musicians lived around you when you were
Um,
growing up?
well, right around the corner is KLC's. I think it's his mother. So I always knew that when I was young. I used to walk to the store knowing that the guy who's responsible for all the music with, No Limit lives around the corner. He might be there. So I used to go walk and rap, and hopefully he can see me. Soulja Slim used to be there all the time. And, it's the third wall, so you would see all of the local rappers, Juvenile. Everybody used to pass on the
Mystikal
Parkway.
used to live around there too?
I don't think. I'm not sure. I thought that was in the 12
wall.
Oh, that's the other side. I lived on the third ward. That's the 12 ward. You're talking about the 12.
Were there any musicians in your family?
On my father's side, I'm not really close with his father, but his father is a jazz musician, I believe, but I don't really know him like that.
What about records that were played in your home? What do you remember was your family loved listening to?
One of my favorite artists still is, and it kind of shocks people, but Betty Wright, like older R&B, of course, because my family, my mother, everybody used to play that in the house. And probably one of my best memories is one time someone told her that, and she called me, and when she heard that I was about to sign or whatever, she called me and she prayed for me on the phone. So I just remember listening to a lot of older Betty Wright, and all of the Marvin Gaye, all of that type of stuff.
When did you start writing?
I was always a writer. It started off with poetry, like my hip hop, my rap, and if you can tell, I write a lot of stories. It started really young, maybe like 6, 7, 8 years old. I was always a writer. Even in elementary, people can kind of remember, all the kids that knew me in school remember me making music, writing poetry, all that type of stuff. So it's been forever.
So when was the first time you wanted to be a musician?
When I was younger, I really didn't have my mind on being an artist, like hip hop. I always was good at it, but I never saw it as being a career because nobody in my family really did it. No one made music.
Were they supportive though?
They were supportive. But I wasn't even looking forward to doing that, and as far as making music. But I remember one time around Uptown, in the neighborhood, I was battling. I battled somebody. That was my very first time battling somebody. And everybody, even KLC's cousin, a lot of people from the neighborhood, they used to say, "Hey girl, she killed, whoever I battled at the time," and he was telling him. And that's when I started to take it seriously because people noticed and said I was good, and stuff like that. So that's when I kind of wanted to focus on being an artist. And that happened maybe like 10 years old.
So what was your first public performance that you really remember being proud of?
I told him this one time, Fifth Ward Weeby. There was a block party, and one of his friends was my cousin's boyfriend at the time. So Fifth Ward Weeby had a song, one of his songs that was out a long time ago, and he was on stage, and I'm like, he's famous. I hear him all the time, So I went up and I asked him, could I perform, and he let me get on stage at the block party. I was like 12 years old. So that's my first performance, and that is one of my fondest memories. Like, he always have a special. I joke with him all the time when I see him, when I talk to him, because that was like my first time on stage. He didn't know me. I just was a little girl saying I could rap.
Mm-hmm. And what was the next kind of big step in your career from there, do you
think? The next step in my career from that being young and performing like that, well, I just remember never stopping. Like, I'm a very passionate person once I put my mind to it, especially when someone tells me that I can't do something. I think it's more about proving myself right than proving somebody else wrong. But once I did that, and I started to see that I actually had a love for it, and I was good with it, and people enjoy what I was doing. Then I just kept going, and I started making music and putting it out on my own. I met a lot of local artists, and just started doing features and stuff like that. Fast forward, buying my own equipment, buying my own camera, shooting videos, stuff like that. I just never stopped. For real, to be honest with you, this is like since that day, or since the my younger years, figuring out that I wanted to be a hip hop artist, it's like been all a blur. This shit is no breaks, no breaks. Like I've never stopped.
You do everything yourself, or at least you used to do everything yourself. From video production to your own PR to
Right.
And were there people who were instrumental in teaching you things, or was it a lot of it was self-taught?
I think I learned a lot just by watching other people's mistakes. I've learned a lot just by asking questions, and even when I found out Joe, even when I found out that Joe was coming, I learned a lot from him, just asking him a lot of questions. And there's a lot of instrumental people like JMK, and even though I didn't have that relationship with KLC, just knowing that he was around the neighborhood, I paid attention to his career really closely. Mia X, I just watched a lot of people, even if I wasn't close with them. And nowadays, that I'm doing things on my own, and the notoriety, the buzz is a bit bigger, then I'm able to reach out to these people and actually have genuine conversations with them. But I think every single artist that you may have interviewed probably has something to do with my career, whether it's like hands on or not. Like, just motivation. I think a lot of people are instrumental to what I'm doing.
So we were talking yesterday about your favorite records, New Orleans records. What New Orleans records have been influential to you?
A lot of Mystikal, just because he had a flow like no other, still has a flow like no other. Mac, because he was very detailed. Like I'm very detailed. The type of music I like to listen to, I like those vivid pictures. Master P, just because he's a boss, shit like that. A lot of records. Probably one of my favorite songs though is Juvenile, Soulja Slim, Slow Motion. That's like one of my favorite songs though.
What was the first song that you remember sounding like it was really New Orleans to you? When I ask that question, a lot of people say "Ha" was the first one, because Juvenile had New Orleans speech in it and things that hadn't really been done in the record.
I probably would say that, or just something from Cash Money, just anything from Cash Money, because it was like closer to me. You know what I'm saying? That was something that I could touch. I used to go on the projects, and I remember when they shot the video. I forgot what video it was, but they were in a project throwing money off the roof and stuff like that. I remember that. So just anything from Cash Money reminds me of seeing New Orleans for the very first time. And I know, P was out and all of that, at the same time, but it was just much more closer for me.
Did the successes of Cash Money and No Limit from here, did that really make you feel like you could do what you wanted to do?
Absolutely. I think it was more so seeing somebody like Mia X though. It was seeing Mia X, seeing the success of Master P and Mystikal and Wayne and all of them. That was good, but I hadn't really seen it be relatable into somebody like Mia X.
With Mia, I can tell you what some of her favorite of her songs are, but what are your favorite of her songs?
That's hard. I love. That's so hard.
Or one that just sticks out to you.
Yeah, one that sticks out. Well, the whole Unladylike, of course. Of course that sticks out to me. But I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this, because I can't. That's too hard for me to pick songs, right? I could tell you that album, of course, like Unladylike, but me and her did a record recently, and that's probably my favorite now. And not even because I'm wanting to take me away from it, but I'm saying like years later to hear that's the same Mia that I listen to. You know what I'm saying? So
this industry is very difficult for women to be in sometimes. How do you deal with that, and how do you negotiate all the issues involved with being a woman in the industry?
well, I'm just honest. You know, can I curse? I'm very honest and I don't give a fuck. The way that people perceive me, if they may call me a bitch, I know, like I just told you, this has been my dream for a very long time. So whether someone takes what I say in the wrong way or not, I'm just honest with it. As long as I'm honest and I communicate well, and that's it. You know, I don't care about gender being a barrier anymore. I think before I used to be like, oh, it's hard for females in the game. So what? I have to work twice as hard. Who gives a fuck? I gotta work anyway, so I'm gonna do it. This is my dream. No one is gonna stop me.
You mentioned the housing projects. What do you think has been the result of so many of the housing projects being torn down after Katrina?
What do I think about what
I mean, they're just all gone now. What's been the effect on the city, and what did the housing projects contribute to New Orleans music?
Well, I slowly see what's going on with gentrification, and I watched this. I watched this DVD about New York and Fort Greene and how it was gentrified and all of that. And it's kind of scary to see the old New Orleans. It's kind of disappearing. But I see it's 50-50 with me. Like, it's nostalgic to think about the old New Orleans. But I see things could get better. I see things getting better. It's looking better, especially when I go uptown. It's looking nicer. You can't get mad at that.
Where were you for Katrina?
Katrina, I had just got my first house, just started. Maybe it was like a month into living on my own for the first time. And I did not want to go. I was here in New Orleans. I did not want to leave because I'm like, fuck,
in New Orleans East? Where?
No, I was in Uptown. So I'm like, I'm not leaving. Everybody calling me like, where you at? Everybody leaving, my whole family. Like, I'm not leaving. I'm staying here. And I stayed maybe the first two. I stayed maybe the first night. Nothing really happened when we woke up in the morning. And my friends, they were like, well, we're gonna go. So I'm leaving. They wanted to leave and go to Baton Rouge. So they were like, we're gonna go because everybody out there, we're gonna go have a party, all that type of stuff. So that's why I left. And then I had to go to Lafayette and everything. Like, just things change. It turned from going out there for a party saying, I'm coming right back home, to not being able to come back. So it was all over the place, mentally at least.
How long were you gone?
I stayed away for maybe like 3. I came back really early, maybe like 3 weeks to a month. Whenever they told us that we can come back and just check, then I came back because my grandmother, she had a house uptown, around Katy Street, around Chapel Tulis, so it didn't flood. So I went there and stayed there for a long time. Their lights wasn't even on and anything, but I went back, moved there.
Was it scary?
Very scary because, the National Guards riding around the city with guns, pulling guns out and shit. Of course it was scary, but one thing about New Orleans, though, is even as scary as it seemed then, it still felt like home. It was scarier being out of town where everybody else perceived to be safe. I felt at home when I came back home. Like, the street lights weren't on. A lot of unfamiliar people riding around the city. It seems dangerous, but I felt at home because that's what I grew up around.
What's been the impact of violence on the music in New Orleans, do you think? Losing so many people, it's home, but it's always been a dangerous place. Not just recently, it's always been dangerous.
It's always been dangerous, of course. I think the impact that violence has on music in New Orleans, it gives us, I think it gives us, you know, it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to have this as motivation, but it gives us a reason to like go that hard. It gives us a reason to want to change shit. It gives us a reason to want to paint these stories and tell what's actually going on because it's different. Everybody else have something going on. You talk about the murder rate in Chicago. You talk about all of these different things, but I think in New Orleans is very different because we're so passionate here. Everything went. It's the crimes. You call it senseless killings, but it's a lot of, I would call the murder, like murders, crimes of passion because people, we feel played very fast. We take everything to heart. We hustle, all of that type of shit, and it's not a justification, but with those things going on, growing up around it and seeing it, it makes you that much more passionate, wanting to get out, wanting to change something, wanting to see something different.
You lost your dad. How do you think that's affected you as an artist?
Losing my father, I lost my father. He committed suicide when I was 10. Not having him kind of, like I make music and it would be great to know that I had somebody that's like, proud of me. Like my family, they are, but I'm daddy's guy. I'm the only girl, so I think that impacted the stories that I tell, the the way that I approach my music because I'm very honest and I just want to make the people around me proud. And not having him is like, it's difficult, but it makes me a grown woman. Like it makes me a grown woman. So when I'm with my music, I don't take. I say whatever is on my mind because I'm grown. I don't have. I just make the type of music that I would want people to hear. I'm not used to being pacified because I don't. I guess not having a father may have something to do with it, or maybe growing up in New Orleans have something to do with it. But I'm not used to being babied or pacified or that princess. So I don't have the mouth of a princess. I don't try to filter my music like a princess would. I just say what I want.
Did you have women in your family that were similar, or do you think that you're one of the first kind of really
No, absolutely. All of the women in my family are strong. Not filtered at all. They say what they want. They say what they mean. They say it with love, but they say what they mean. And I think that's probably one of the best qualities of the women in our family.
Besides that Fifth Ward BB concert that you remember, what's your most proud concert you've done thus far in New Orleans?
In New Orleans, Jazz Fest. Yeah, I did Jazz Fest. My very first Jazz Fest, I think, was 2012 or 2013. And my very first job was working at Jazz Fest. Like for those 2 little weeks, I was like maybe 11 years old. I used to work at the soft shell crab. That's horrible, but yeah, I worked there, and I was like passing out condiments and shit like that. So I had a moment on stage, just thinking like, damn, I'm really at Jazz Fest. Like, look at this crowd, and I was received well. I'm performing where a lot of people come in here, they passing, and they stopping, and they coming to see me, and they excited about it. They wrote about it in the newspaper. That was like one of the best moments performing in New Orleans.
What'd your grandma say about that?
She loved it. She loved it. She was excited because it's.
Could they come?
Yeah. My mother came. My brothers came. A lot of my family members came. My cousins. A lot of people came. So it was one of the best things because everybody know about Jazz Fest.
You have two younger brothers.
Two younger brothers. Yeah.
How young are they?
Oh, they're not that young. They're just younger than me.
Do they do anything with music at all?
No, they don't. They don't make music at all. I'm like me and my cousin G Tech. We're the only ones that
What about production? Who I know you've produced a lot of stuff on your own. What producers do you like working with?
You know what? I haven't really worked with a lot of producers in New Orleans. Um, so you mean in general?
Mm-hmm.
Of course, working with Timbaland was nice. Of course, he's one of the best ever. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know. I just reach out to. Oh, there's a guy from Atlanta. His name is Casa. He's like my favorite producer. He produced the track Little Kim that I did. He produced a song with me and Kerry Hilson. He produced the record called Roll My Carpet Out. And I think he's very versatile, so I like his stuff.
Who helped you with production stuff when you were first learning?
Well, I'm not the best at it. Like I don't. I'm still learning. But I learned a lot just by watching tutorials and just being hands-on, going in the studio, watching other people.
Mm-hmm. So before you were able to have your own studio set up, or have you always dealt with your own kind of studio set up? Where were you working out of?
Right before I purchased my own equipment and stuff, I was recording at the music shed. If you ever heard of the music shed on YouTube, I used to record there, and they would shout out to Chris, but they were an arm and an ass, like paying money to work there. So after seeing that, around that time I was selling drugs, to be honest with you. So that was me taking money out of my own pocket and paying it. And I've always been the type of person I will watch up and then I'm like, okay, I think I can do this, okay. So I used to watch Chris, the engineer who was there at the time that I was recording there, and I would just sit over his shoulder and watch him mixing the songs and stuff like that. And I went to Guitar Center and I just brought me an inbox, brought me a microphone, got a little computer off of Craigslist or something like that, I think at the time. And I just started to teach myself. I would still go to the studio and pay him, but now I'm learning. Now I'm going not just to record these songs. Now I'm going to pay attention and see what's really going on and say, oh, yeah, that's why I fucked up when I was at home recording myself. So, I just pay attention to that.
Mm-hmm. Fast forwarding, we can't not mention Russell Simmons. So, how did all that come
about? Russell Simmons, being recognized by him is probably like one of the greatest feelings ever because I've read damn near all of his books. He's very inspirational, of course. So I never in a million years thought that not only would he like my music, but just like me as a person, like whatever. So I shot some videos, just like usually how it always happens. I shot a video, I directed it, edited it, put it online, and I got a call from someone who worked closely with Steve Rifkin, and they said, Steve and Russell, they're doing something together, and they saw your work online and they really loved it. I'm like, all right, tell them to call me. Because people call all the time and say all kinds of stuff. So I'm like, all right, tell them to call me. And they both called me on the phone together. So they just were telling me they like my music, they like what I was doing, and we FaceTime. I was sitting right here watching me FaceTime, and they we Skype, and they wanted to fly me out there. So I went back and forth. During this time, baby flew me to LA. Russell flew me out there. So we were just talking a lot, and it just made more sense. Like they didn't just see me as a rapper; they saw me as a businesswoman. They saw me as somebody who can contribute to the culture as a whole and contribute to what they're doing, like business wise. So I thought it made the most sense to mess with them. They're looking at me not only as just an artist, but like a partner. So.
And that's different than to signing with Cash Money and having a different experience of just being an artist. Here in that situation, you can do more and have more influence.
Right. Just more input because I'm used to doing things by myself, and I don't want to say like a control freak. I wouldn't describe myself as a control freak, but I'd rather be a control freak than out of control. You know what I'm saying? So, just being able to know that some legends, these guys are legends, just to know that they're okay in the visions that I already had for myself, and it's not like, okay, well, we don't want you to interfere with the other artists that we have. They want to invest in me and let me do my thing, and I think that's one of the most important things.
If anyone offered, which label would she sign to first locally? Cash Money, Young Money, New No Limit, Jet Life, other. Who would you sign to first if you're going to sign to a New Orleans label?
Well, I guess we can take Cash Money out of the situation because I didn't sign with them. I've never met Master P before, so what I can say is I think that Currency is well on his way to being the next them. He's already done great things with his career or whatever. But honestly, it would just have to be whatever makes sense paperwork wise. See, because the thing about me is, it might not be much, but this is my shit. You can look outside and see the cars I drive. You can walk through my house and I own this shit. This is mine. So right now I'm hustling for what I want. I already have everything I need. So it's not about signing with somebody for their name or signing because this one is the most popular. It has to make sense in the paperwork. So it's a toss up. Whatever makes sense.
If for somebody who had never been here or had never heard New Orleans music or New Orleans rap, how would you describe it to them?
New Orleans rap.
What's the sound?
New Orleans rap is just like the people, passionate, fun, honest. You know what I'm saying? I don't know because do you consider bounce being rap? Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, it's fun. It's honest. It's just like the people in the city.
How have you been influenced by bounce?
Well, I'm an uptown girl, so I'm very influenced by bounce. It might not come out in my music all the time, but every time that I go to the club, of course, that's all we hear in New Orleans. So that's all we play at the parties in my family, all of that stuff. So we love bounce music here.
When we came out with Let Me Find Out, that was one of the reasons that I think it got so big is that it had such an old school bounce sound. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the new bounce doesn't sound very much like old school bounce.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
And people miss it.
That's my favorite type of bounce music when it is not like as redundant. It's always been the call and response, but when it's not as redundant. But probably one of my favorite bounce artists is Natee, Juvenile. I like that type of shit.
Mm-hmm. What about Natee?
Natee.
His songwriting?
Yeah, Natee because
he's funny.
He's very funny, and he, I talk about being honest a lot, and he is very honest in his music. You know what I'm saying? I love that about his music. And what was it? Consequences. Probably like my favorite bounce song ever. I love it.
What about it?
Just because what he was talking about, even him being Natee, Sissy Natee, I think anybody in love and crazy in love could relate to that shit. So, I like that song.
What's your favorite subject to write about? Do you have fun, or do you kind of just put everything in there? Like really love, relationships, arguments, jealousy, what you want, what you need.
No, whatever I feel at the moment. Mm-hmm. Because my music is sort of like therapy to me. So however I feel, one thing about me is I cannot, if somebody pissed me off, like my mood really dictates what I'm going to write about. So if somebody pissed me off, I might not write about that situation, but you're gonna hear a certain anger in whatever I record next. If I'm feeling good, if something happened and I'm excited, you might not hear a party song. I'm in a club, but it might be something about love where it's a funner. I mean, it's a a happier love song or something. My mood kind of dictates how my delivery. So um, I don't really have a favorite thing to write about. I love telling stories, of course. I love doing reality and taking you from one point and bringing you to the middle of a record and in the end and having a twist like I did in Little Kim and stuff like that. But I wouldn't say that I have a favorite.
When you're just home by yourself, what are some of your favorite kind of records to listen to? Do you go back to Betty Wright?
I listen to older songs. Mary J. Blige, SWV, Mariah Carey. I listen to a lot of R&B. I love R&B. Jodeci, shit like that.
What about singing? Have you done any singing? I haven't heard you.
I cannot sing, but anytime you hear singing on any of my projects, I most likely wrote it. Like me and August Alsina have a song coming out. I wrote that. I do a lot of writing behind the scenes, which now I'm working on a publishing deal. I've been writing a lot of stuff for people behind the scenes, and it's been turning out good. So I write a lot of R&B too. I just don't include it a lot with what I do, but melody wise in my music now, I'm kind of incorporating some of the things that I've been putting to the side because I'm like, nah, it's not really me. But I've kind of been incorporating it more in my music, and it's a lot on my new project.
With you, your profile has gotten just bigger and bigger and bigger over the last 3-4 years, and now you have a high visibility. Has it changed your songwriting at all? I mean, do you purposely try to write more kind of pop songs now? Not pop, but more commercial.
To be honest with you, I consciously, at a point early on, I consciously made a decision to try to start doing those things. And it didn't feel right to me. And when I stuck to what I was doing, that's when Timbaland came, Russell Simmons came, Sean Money, Def Jam, Interscope. All these people started to pay attention to what I was doing when I said, fuck it. I don't know if it's gonna work, but I just feel better making what I want to make. So maybe this won't work for me, and I just started to be myself, and that's when it worked for me. So I don't try to force myself to make any type of music anymore. I just make what I want. The Ghetto Twiinz. What I love about the Ghetto Twiinz still is that their delivery is still so aggressive. Like their delivery is very aggressive. But when I met them, they were so sweet and just real laid back, and it kind of reminded me of myself. So I love the Ghetto Twiinz because they were still women. They were still very feminine. That's what I loved about me and X too. Like they're still women. They said it was fine to be, a woman, a lady, and aggressive, and say what you mean, and still don't give a fuck. So I love that about the Ghetto Twiinz.
Anything else you want to talk about? Next big project, or next thing you're proud of?
My next project is called The Regime. I'm working on, and right now I'm working on getting more features for it. Today I just dropped a song with Young Roddy from Currency, just Gen Life recording. I did a song with Mia X, and I also have my app that I'm revamping my whole app, and I'm about to do this tour. What I did maybe like a week and a half ago. I mean, not a week and a half ago. I'm sorry, a month and a half ago. I was going to the post office, and I'm mailing out these I usually have my little brother do it, but he wasn't around. So I went and I'm mailing out all of these hats and shirts and all of the merchandise, right? And I'm like, you know what? A lot of these people, they're not just one time buyers. Like they come back, and if I drop a new color or whatever I drop, they'll come buy it. I said, man, I need to, at least in New Orleans, at least I need to go and just pop up at some of these people's houses and just tell them thank you. You know what I'm saying? Maybe they like get the fuck from off of my porch, but I just need to go and do that, and I did it, and it turned out like so well. Just people were so shocked. I went in a there was this girl in a Desire project. Her name was Kate, and a little young girl or whatever who she was buying my stuff and she was a fan of the music, and I just pulled up and I got it. There's a video on my YouTube, but she just started crying, and I'm like, this is right down the street from my cousin stay right around here. You know what I'm saying? So just knowing that I'm from here and I have that effect on people, that's something that I never want to forget about. So I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna start doing that all over. Just when I go to different places, we're working on getting a tour schedule. When I do that, I'm just gonna start popping up, just going to places and just thanking people for fucking with my music, because this is a very hands-on situation. I'm very self-sufficient, so it always shocked me when people support me like that. So I just